Flighties and Mr. Bowe, I want to thank you so much for your extraordinary testimony and what you've done by coming forward as a witness. You are the one that put Pornhub on the run. It wasn't the big MasterCard and Visa. It was your willingness to be a voice and to step forward. And to follow up on my colleague, Madame Goudreau, we thank you for your courage. What we are here, it might seem like a bunch of people on a screen asking strange questions. This is how we make laws in our country. We get witness testimony. You tell us that you're not an expert in laws. Well, you are helping to shape the laws of the future to protect other survivors. So your testimony is so important to us today because we are going to take action. We are going to hold these guys to account. That is our job as legislators and as parents because the system failed you. So you've given us so much, and I'm not going to make you repeat all the good, amazing things you've said, but I was really struck by you said how they hassled you when you as a child was trying to get control of your life again from the exploitation, from the criminal acts that were done to you, that they, as a massive corporation, hassled you. Could you explain to me what that means and what you think we should make them do so that they don't hassle any other young women anywhere in the world?
Yeah. So basically, when like the videos were first uploaded online, and I didn't want to tell my mom about them, then I pretended to be my mom. They would say like, "Oh, well, it's not actually you in the video, so to provide proof that that's your daughter and that she's underage, you're gonna have to provide like, basically like pictures of me next to some sort of identification." And like they would ask for all these different things, and they would ask for even after I would send one picture next to whatever identification they would ask for another picture next to a different identification, and so on and so forth, just dragging out the process so long, even though it was very obvious it was a child in the video. Even if I wasn't the girl that was in the video, they could still tell that was a child in the video, and they were still dragging out this process because they didn't want to take the video down because it had at that point millions of views, and it was bringing them in ad revenue and clicks to their site. It would be a top at the top of Google for the searches. And it's just, it amazes me how they continue to do that even after, even after hearing that so many other people went through this and knowing that I wasn't the only one that they would do this to. It's just like, I don't understand how they can be okay with it, and how in their mind they can sit here and think like, okay, well, this isn't the girl in the video, or I'm gonna make her prove over and over and over and over again that it is her in the video, even though we can see it's child pornography. We're just gonna make sure it's her that wants it taken down before we take it down, even though they should have just taken it down because it was child pornography.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna ask Mr. Bowe about this. If MindGeek is promoting a video that says 13-year-old girl or 14-year-old girl, in Canada, we have very strong child pornography legislation, and it's anyone under 18. So the fact that the corporate response to this young woman, this child, was that they didn't believe she was the one in the video, or they didn't believe that she was the mother. She was pretending to be her own mother. That they would have to go through that level of proving when what they were promoting was criminal in behavior. Do you believe that under an American law, or we are looking under Canadian law, whether or not they are criminally liable for the fact that they were aware and they were promoting child pornography online to their viewers for monetization?
Yes. Look, I think this is something the law can be improved on, because the law was written before the internet and tube sites. But I have no question under American law that there are criminal violations here, and including, so for example, I raised 2257 for a reason, because it's so basic. Before the internet, the American law required that if you were going to produce pornographic material, explicit material, you had to have just paperwork that showed the person was of age and it was consensual, and you had to keep the paperwork. And then if you were going to send it and give it to somebody to sell or broadcast or whatever, you had to have a disclaimer on it that showed, okay, this is what I did, and here's where you can find the paperwork, right? The point being that it was the responsibility of the people producing it to make sure it was consensual. And if you were going to distribute it, transfer it, show it, you had to make sure that that person made sure. That is sense. It wasn't controversial when it was when it was enacted way back in the 90s. I think we should all agree on it now. But the default in this industry is it's consensual and adult until you prove to me otherwise, which that shouldn't be the standard. It can't possibly be an effective standard. And I don't think it actually is the standard. So one example, and I think lawyers could argue over what aspects of MindGeek's business 2257 applies to, which one doesn't, but it clearly applies to transferring pornographic material. When a person uploads to Pornhub, perhaps lawyers could argue that that Pornhub is just receiving the information, and under the various definitions, which sort of were before tube sites, lawyers could argue whether 2257 applies to them at that point. I think it does, but there's an argument, and that's why legislators should probably update that law. But they almost immediately then take that content from Pornhub and push it out to their other sites, which clearly falls under 2257 in my view. And they don't have the required documents, and there's no disclaimer on that material. And so the only response, so this entire industry, one of the members asked, what about the process? I've been a lawyer for 30 years. I've did plaintiffs and defendants in a lot. I have never seen a situation where there was so much disregard and indifference to what was obviously child pornography, rape, trafficking content, illegal content on this site. So there was no process. And that's why this issue of gaslighting is so important to me. This entire year, if you were simply listening to their public pronouncements of MindGeek, of its agents that are in its sort of network of performers and otherwise, of its allies in the industry, you would think they have all this process and they have all this technology, and that this stuff just, mistakes were made. And I'm telling you that when we're done and the proof comes out, and if you're able to sort of go and do the type of investigation we've done, you will just find out that is a bunch of BS. There was no process. Moderators. The moderators, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just because this is really, really important. I think we're going to have to draw you back as a witness on this, but I'll defer to the chair on that. But Section 162-1 of the Criminal Code in Canada, it is illegal to record or film a person who had a reasonable expectation of privacy. It is an offense to distribute such content or possess such content. It is an offense to distribute if the person did not consent. And then that leads us into Section 163 about the distribution of child pornography. So these are the laws. We also have a law from 2011 on the obligations of ISPs to report flagged examples of child pornography. And yet we have Ms. Fleitas raising known issues of child pornography and being told, prove it to us before we do anything. So I just want to ask you, one that my time left, I'm going to read one other statement. It's from Pornhub's terms of reference. Pornhub claims they, quote, take a strong stand against any form of child exploitation or human trafficking. If we discover that any content involves underage individuals or any form of force, fraud, or coercion, we will remove the content and submit the report to the proper law enforcement